All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 24th Annual Candidates Forum here at the Wadsworth Public Library. We have the great honor here at the Wadsworth Public Library of holding this forum every year for the last 24 years, and I've heard a lot of feedback since I've been here for the last 3 from people who've been in the community many years that this is considered one of the best forums for a candidate to get the word out, because our approach here is to have a discussion about the positions and not about the people. And what we're doing tonight is having a civil discussion about the issues and the positions and not about the people. This honor and privilege for the library is consistent with the deep tradition of the American Public Library, which takes us all the way back to the founding of this country, representative democracy itself, and an informed, thoughtful citizenry, which is absolutely necessary for its proper functioning. In this process, the library has a difficult job of establishing a big tent, and we need your cooperation in that tonight. This evening is not about debate. It is about a dialogue between you, the voters in the audience, and the candidates who have put their own necks on the line to serve our community here in local elected office. I'm going to give you a brief overview. We don't have a lot of time. We've got a lot of people who need to speak, and we need to honor the time limits in order to make sure that those voices are heard, and as well as the questions that you're going to bring forth. First, I'm going to introduce every candidate by name and office, and this is not a time for them to speak just yet. I'm just going to go through and introduce who's here, and if you'll raise your hand as I say your name. We have Thomas Teodoso, the 9th District Court of Appeals Judge. Keith Mundy, 16th Congressional District Representative.
How are we doing?
Larry Obhoff, 22nd District State Senator. Steve Hambly, 69th District State Representative. Frank Zona for the 69th District State Representative seat.
Hi,
Patricia Geisman, County Commissioner. William Hudson, County Commissioner. Mark Colasar, Commissioner. Christopher Collier, Common Pleas Court Judge.
Good evening.
Michael Conway, Common Pleas Court Judge.
Hello.
David Wadsworth, County Clerk of Courts.
Hello.
Lisa Duranick, County Coroner.
Good evening, everyone.
Dean Holman, County Prosecutor.
Good evening.
S. Forrest Thompson, County Prosecutor. And Colleen Swadek, County Recorder. Thank you. Now that all the candidates have been introduced, we're going to begin the opening remarks. And the way that works is that each candidate is going to come up to the podium here, and they'll have 2 minutes to give their opening remarks. And we're going to monitor that time closely. Donald Harmon in the back of the room there will be holding up a 1-minute and 30-second warning and then a time-up card. And if you go much more than a second over that, I'm unfortunately going to have to cut you off, and I take no pleasure in that, I promise. When you've all spoken, I'm going to invite questions from the audience. I'm going to give about 5 minutes for you to write your questions on note cards. I'm going to have staff members walking around the room, passing out and collecting the note cards, which they're going to pass up to me. And my job here is to make sure that those questions are directed to the issues and the offices, and they are not directed to individual people. We're talking about the issues and the offices at tonight's forum, and I'll remind you about that one more time. As we proceed through the initial comments, the questions will be closely adhering to those time constraints. So I'll give you that warning one more time as well. We drew lots after the candidates sat down and randomly assigned the order in which they're going to give their opening remarks. So right now, we're going to jump right in because time is limited and begin with David Wadsworth for the County Clerk of Courts.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dave Wadsworth, your Medina County Clerk of Courts. I was appointed in January of 2011 after the previous clerk retired and was elected to a full term in 2012. On a personal note, I've been married to my wife Barbara for 30 years, have 3 daughters, all of whom are recent college graduates. I'm a parishioner at St. Ambrose Church, a member of the Medina County Farm Bureau, the Fraternal Order of Eagles, and a lifetime member of the National Rifle Association. The clerk's office is the business office of the common pleas courts. The clerk receives legal documents for filing. We maintain court records, account for costs, fines, and monies paid to the courts, and take passport applications and distribute notary applications. Clerk also operates 3 state title offices here in Medina County. I manage a total of 39 employees in 4 different business locations and a $2+ million annual budget, and we handle approximately $50 million per year. I'm a business manager. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration with 25 years of management experience. For over 8 years, I served as a part-time Brunswick City Councilman at large. As your clerk of courts for over 5 years now, I've become a certified court manager after completing 3 years of courses through the Supreme Court's Ohio Judicial College. I upgraded and modernized the clerk's office computer servers, software, and desktop computers. I have improved customer service by adding a convenient 24/7 online payment option, and we have generated a surplus of over $1.4 million since 2011 by increasing auto title business, transferring monies to the county general fund to help prevent tax increases and cuts in important services. This November, I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wadsworth. Next speaker is Patricia Geisman, County Commissioner.
Hi, folks. I made a promise when I first was elected, and the promise was to listen to residents of Medina County and to have a conservative voice and to identify and resolve county issues without raising taxes. I've kept that promise, and I believe I've made a difference. I've always felt it was very important to get out and about, to hear your concerns. You are concerned about the economy, about jobs, about taxes, about trash, and more recently, about the drug overdose crisis that is growing every day in our county. During the recent recession, I addressed the effects of a poor economy at our county, establishing the Medina County Foreclosure Prevention Task Force that has helped many families save and stay in their homes. I also initiated the Feeding Medina County program that is providing food to children, seniors, and families in need. Other initiatives include the Railroad Safety Task Force, which so far has resulted in more than $5 million in state and federal funding. These grants improve the safety of our crossings. I also took the initiative to establish Medina County's Battered Women's Shelter, the Juvenile Detention Center, and the Public Defenders Program. Voters expect their elected officials to be conservative. I have a record of a strong conservative approach to balancing the county budget. I've never had a problem saying no to unnecessary spending. As a longtime board member of the County Commissioners Association of Ohio, I've had the privilege of serving as president of that organization, as well as president of the Ohio County Risk Sharing Authority. Okay, I was trying to talk fast.
Yeah, no pleasure taken here. Thank you. Our next speaker is S. Forrest Thompson.
Good evening. My name is Forrest Thompson. I am the Republican candidate for the Medina County Prosecutor's Office. I have served the community of Medina County for the last 22 years as a practicing attorney. I've tried cases in virtually every court. I've tried cases in virtually every court, including numerous other counties. These cases have ranged from criminal defense to probate litigation to prosecuting civil cases. Prior to becoming an attorney, I worked for the military. I spent 7 years in law enforcement. And within that capacity, I worked in an anti-terrorism unit with a specialty in explosives detection. I also did diplomat escorts, both foreign and domestic, in various locations. The primary issues that are facing our community right now are getting the most media attention and have already been touched upon. And number one is heroin. There are too many issues to address in 2 minutes, but the heroin epidemic is one of the most pervasive. This is an issue that for the last 30 years, every county prosecutor in every state in the country has argued, get tough, get tough. It's not working, plain and simple. We need to have an interdiction program that would allow users to be treated with a level of amnesty that would keep them from the system in the first place. Another pervasive issue is financial exploitation of the elderly. I've dealt with many of these cases in my personal practice, and this is a pledge that I will make. If I am elected prosecutor, I intend to prosecute vigorously every single case of financial exploitation of the elderly. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Mark Colasar for the County Commissioner seat.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Colasar. I'm a Medina County resident for the last 33 years. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Megan. We actually go to church here at First Christian here in Wadsworth. My wife's been a lifelong member, and I've been a member for the last 10 years. I'm currently a deacon, 5th grade Sunday school teacher, and work with the youth group at the church. Why Mark Colasar for Medina County Commissioner? Living and growing up in Medina County, I've built an impenetrable pride and passion for this area, its communities, and its people. I'm truly blessed to have had this opportunity, and I want to make sure we pass that quality of life down to future families and future generations. I believe I have the ability and proven record to provide a much-needed boost to the Commissioners Board. I've been an elected official for the last 12 years as a Medina City Councilman, and I have a track record of putting politics aside, taking every vote seriously, and looking out for the constituents I represent. During my tenure on City Council, I've pushed for a common sense approach. I look at each issue individually to make sure that when I vote, I am voting for what is best, even if it's not the popular choice. The voters want a representative to be transparent, honest, have a vision, and make sure their government is using their taxpayer dollars as efficient as possible. I truly understand that each taxpayer works very hard for their money, and they deserve a representative who will make sure they get return on their investment. As an elected official for Medina for over a decade, I understand the ins and outs of government operations, annual budgets, multi-million-dollar infrastructure projects, safety services, labor negotiations, and making sure we do everything we can to keep our business community vibrant and strong. We have many challenges at the county level, and I'm ready to take these challenges on and move Medina County forward. Job retention and creation, the heroin epidemic, Medina County recycling, the Nexus pipeline, and this is just to name a few. I'm ready to get to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Steve Hambley for the 69th District State Representative seat.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here. As many of you know, I was a county commissioner for 18 years, also a retired college professor, but over the last year and 10 months, I've been honored to represent the 69th District in the Ohio House. What's been going on? Well, we've had over 600 bills, House bills introduced, and over 350 Senate bills to be considered by the General Assembly. The House has passed 179 House bills and 40 Senate bills. I have been the primary sponsor of 11 bills and co-sponsor of over 120. What have we actually accomplished? In many of these bills, we have cut taxes for Ohio small business owners and families by $1.2 billion. We've increased the state rainy day fund to almost $2 billion. We enacted House Bill 264, which provided for back-to-school 3-day sales tax holiday for school supplies. We enacted House Bill 390 more recently, which paid off the federal unemployment insurance debt, saving $400 million in penalties that employers would have had to pay. We've increased state aid for primary and secondary education by over $850 million. We added nearly $230 million to higher education. We've also instituted very important charter school reform, House Bill 2, which increased oversight focusing on transparency, responsibility, and accountability of the charter schools. Napoleon Hill, a famous writer, once wrote, "Patience, persistence, and perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success." I have seen that work firsthand in the Ohio House. I want to continue working in the Republican majority to reduce state tax burden on families and businesses, promote legislation that furnishes local governments with more options instead of fewer. In addition, my relentless support for our local public schools and the additional reforms to the charter school system will be among my highest priorities. Lastly, with the help of the leaders of Columbus, we need to provide additional resources and help for law enforcement, for our communities, and our families as they battle the scourge of opiate addictions. I ask for your support on November 8th that we can continue working on these important issues facing this district and the state of Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Thomas Teodosio for the 9th District Appeals Court Judge seat.
Thank you and good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm Judge Thomas A. Teodosio. I have served for 9 years on the Summit County Common Pleas Court bench. I have experience trying everything from death penalty cases, rape, murder, all the way down the line, folks, to lower level felonies. I've had the trial court experience of hearing serious civil matters. I'm talking about wrongful death cases, medical malpractice cases, complex civil litigation. Why do I tell you this? The Court of Appeals is an extremely important seat for you to consider. It is most likely your court of last resort because you get one right to an appeal, and that's to the Court of Appeals. Beyond that, you have to hope that the Supreme Court takes your case. So you want somebody with broad experience. On top of my 9 years as a common pleas court judge, which, by the way, I also serve as Summit County's drug court judge, so I'm very familiar with the heroin epidemic and have been battling that. I also have 25 years as a trial court attorney. I also have legislative experience, having served on Summit County Council. In this particular race, the Akron Bar Association interviewed both candidates, and I am the only candidate to receive the rating of excellent. I also have been elected twice to my seat. Now that's important because voters have had a chance to weigh in on my performance. The first time I ran for re-election, I won with 65% of the vote. Most recent in 2012, I received 77% of the vote, every precinct in Summit County. Both candidates are from Summit County. I've been active in your community, in the district, working to get to know you. I ask for your support this fall. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next candidate is Lisa Derenick for the office of County Coroner.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Derenick, and I am the Republican candidate for coroner. I was born in Cleveland. I graduated from Kent State University with a degree in biology. I went to the Ohio State University College of Medicine. Go Bucks. I performed and did 2 residencies, and I'm double boarded, both in emergency medicine and internal medicine. I live in Sharon Township with my husband, Dr. Steve Fannin, and 3 amazing children. I love Medina County, and I'm ready to become your coroner. I will be a coroner who answers her calls in a timely fashion. I will be your coroner who goes to the scenes. I will be your coroner who works as a team with police, with the medical community, and with our local funeral homes to serve the Medina County residents. And last of all, I will be a passionate advocate for the families. These families are grieving, and they need and they deserve the answers that I hopefully can give them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Larry Obhoff for the 22nd District State Senator seat.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Larry Obhoff, State Senator for the 22nd District, which includes Medina, Richland, Ashland, and Holmes counties. I live here in Medina County along with my wife Nicole and our 3 daughters. I currently serve as the President pro tempore, which is the second highest leadership position in the Senate. Since I joined the Senate, my focus has been on jobs in the economy and protecting your tax dollars by working to make state government more effective and more efficient. We've cut taxes by roughly $5 billion, among the most in the nation. I co-sponsored the Common Sense Initiative to get red tape and regulations out of the way of small businesses, and I supported performance audits of state agencies. During this legislative session, I sponsored Senate Bill 26 and co-sponsored House Bill 3, which cut the filing fees for starting a new business in Ohio by 21%. These policies are working. We've cut Ohio's unemployment rate nearly in half, from 9.2% in 2011 to 4.7% today, and Ohio's added more than 400,000 net new jobs. We're currently on pace to set a record for the most new business formations in the state of Ohio's history. And I work on a wide range of other issues. I've played a significant role in our legislative efforts to battle the heroin epidemic, including co-sponsoring bills allowing for more widespread use of Narcan to prevent overdose deaths. I've co-sponsored several laws protecting women and children from violent predators, and I'm working to improve our schools. And in the last 2 budgets, I voted to significantly increase state support for primary and secondary education. I work pretty well with everybody, regardless of their party. In fact, newspapers have pointed out that I've earned a reputation as someone who's willing to work across party lines. Because of that, I've been endorsed by a wide range of groups, including groups representing both business and labor, the Fraternal Order of Police, Second Amendment groups, including the NRA, and I was recently named a Friend of Agriculture by the Ohio Farm Bureau. So regardless of which party you're in, if you're looking for solid representation from somebody who cares about our community, I ask for your vote this November. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Michael Conway for Common Pleas Court Judge.
Good evening. I've been a lawyer for 25 years. I practice in all courts in Ohio and Texas. I've represented and counseled over 1,000 clients in all kinds of cases. I've appeared before the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee dealing with sexual assaults on military contractors in Iraq. I have worked a variety of cases. One of the latest cases I have, I'm dealing with the grounding of a taconite carrier in Lake Superior. So I've seen all kinds of cases. And when you're a judge, that kind of experience is really important because every day there's a different case with different facts. And you've got to know the law. You have to be an expert in the law, and that's what I intend to be. Prior to running for office, prior to becoming an attorney, I was a captain in the Marine Corps Infantry, and I have a very strong work ethic. I really put it out there, and if I have to stay up and work 130 hours a week to get the job done, that's the kind of lawyer I am. That kind of work ethic is what I will translate into the work ethic as a judge. I will hold lawyers and prosecutors to high standards of performance in the courtroom. I will take the focus in the courtroom off the judge and put it on the jury and the evidence and the advocates where I believe it belongs. I want everybody to see that if I'm elected judge, that they will be treated fairly and they won't have to dread coming to court because they know that they're going to have a chance to be heard. The most important characteristics of a judge are basically 2 things. Number 1 is, do you listen to people? That's the first thing. I listen to people, and I read thousands of cases every year. I judge judges every year as an advocate. That's one thing you have to be. The other thing you have to be is fair and impartial. As an advocate, I take sides for a living. As a judge, I can't do that. I have to be fair and impartial, and that's what I intend to be. Thank you. Hope you'll vote for me.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Keith Mundy for the 16th Congressional Representative seat.
And my name is Keith Mundy. I am running for Congress. About 9 months ago, 10 months ago is when I decided to run for Congress. I've never run for office in my life. How I got here was through Bernie Sanders. About 15 months ago, I started Bernie Sanders for Cuyahoga County. And then the next thing I did was start Northeast Ohio for Bernie Sanders, and then we moved to a state level. And before we knew it, we had over 200,000 volunteers. I was born in Akron. I was raised in Summit County. Went to Hudson High, University of Akron. Been married to my wife for 38 years. We had 2 children. One of our children passed away 5 years ago, Ryan, our son. Our daughter just had triplets, which is pretty exciting. That doubled the amount of grandchildren we had in one swell swoop. Running for Congress, I had no idea how tough it is. Today I was in 4 different counties. This is my 5th stop of the day. It wears you out. I'm pretty sure every single candidate here will tell you the same thing, except they're not in 6 different counties, most of them. What we have to do is, and everybody talks about it, it's about jobs. They talk about the drugs, they talk about this, they talk about that. The bottom line, it's about jobs, and it's about good paying jobs, not just jobs. That's the big problem, is minimum wage. A minimum wage job doesn't get anybody anywhere. No matter how many of them they have, they still won't have enough. I'm looking at $15 an hour jobs. The trickle down doesn't work, the bubble up will. And the reason why that is when somebody makes $15 an hour that used to be making minimum wage, you're still going to spend every penny. And when you spend that kind of money, you're going to create jobs. It's that simple. I have to finish up here real quick. Again, I'd like you to take a look at me. Go to monday2016.com. Take a look at some of the stances we have, some of our platform, and also our Facebook. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of good videos. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Dean Holman, County Prosecutor.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Dean Holman. I've had the honor and privilege of being your county prosecutor for the last 28 years. During those 28 years, I've emphasized fair and aggressive prosecution. I've supervised 14,000 felony cases. I've personally tried hundreds of cases. I've taken hundreds of cases to jury trial. I've tried aggravated murder, death penalty cases, aggravated murder cases, rape cases, aggravated arson, theft, you name it, I've tried it. I started the Victims Assistance Program when I got elected in 1989, and for starting that, former Chief Justice Thomas Moyer gave me the Public Policy Leadership Award in the state of Ohio. I've led the prosecutor's office through changes in time, changes in law, and changes in how crimes are committed, and changes on both sides of the aisle, criminal and civil. A few years ago, my office was deluged with foreclosure cases. We would get foreclosure complaints filed that were a foot deep each day, so I had to add staff and then subtract staff as that crisis subsided. I'm working to deal with the heroin crisis in 3 different ways. We're partnering with the United States Attorney's Office. I have an assistant prosecutor who's designated as a special assistant United States attorney. We're using the RICO statute, engaging a pattern of corrupt activity statute, to go after groups of dealers. And in the past years, I have a history of a decade of working with drug courts to get people into treatment. I believe with treatment and responsibility and accountability. My ability and judgment has been recognized by my peers. I've been named special prosecutor in 8 counties. I was named Ohio Prosecutor of the Year in 2011. I'm past president of the Ohio Prosecuting Attorneys Association. It's a privilege and an honor to be your county prosecutor. I'd like the opportunity to serve 4 more years. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Frank Zona for the 69th District State Representative seat.
Hi everyone, I'm Frank Zona, and I'm running for the State House. Let me tell you why. First, I want to thank you all so much for being here, especially my family. I'm running to represent real people. I want to earn your vote on Election Day, not because of party, but because you know in your heart that I'm not going to rest until I've done good by you. This campaign's not about my opponent or titles. In fact, I like and respect my opponent. I do. This campaign is about responsiveness. I believe accountability to people is what we need most right now. Let's start with education. $2.4 million of your taxes for local schools was redirected to corporations. Property taxes have soared. Our schools are rated better, yet for-profit charters cost us $7,000 a student. Ours cost $4,000. Every superintendent I've met is against charters. They know the horror stories. It's an outrage and tragedy to take a child's opportunities for profit. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Ohio Federation of Teachers. Let's lower taxes, make sure our children's education is world-class, cost-effective, and not dictated by corporate boards. And how about the drug crisis in our state? More die from overdoses than car crashes. It's an emergency. These are real people. Every single one is a story. Some people have said that resources in the county and the state are adequate. I disagree. I'm proud to have the support of emergency room doctors and the endorsement of the Fraternal Order of Police. If you want to turn drugs in, seek treatment, turn your life around, you should be able to. I know good people, all ages and backgrounds, who are beating the heroin crisis every single day. It's time to support them and make every penny count. Safe drinking water, pipeline safety, fighting for animal abuse, protecting property rights, it all needs leadership. So does creating jobs and supporting small business. Having a family business, I know financial decisions when you have a family, and as the son of 2 Army veterans, I know what it means to need to trust that your leadership has your back no matter what. As a neuroscientist, I've represented us at scientific conferences where Alzheimer's, MS, and cancer are around the corner. I work from evidence. I know what it means to bring it to the State House. I hope I can earn your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Christopher Collier, Common Pleas Court Judge.
Excuse me, good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Collier, and I'm your Common Pleas Court Judge. I have been for nearly 18 years. You know me. You know me. This is the introduction part. I think you do. Maybe you've been a juror in my courtroom. If you've been a juror in my courtroom, you know what I think about you. You are the most interesting, and the job you'll do is the most exciting job. You'll love it because you'll be doing justice. I tell my jurors that justice and fairness and common sense lives with them. Maybe you know me because you're the parent of a child in one of the schools that I go to talk to. I speak in schools, elementary schools, junior high schools every year. Civic organizations, I think it's important to take the ideas of constitutional law and liberty, fairness and the equal protection under the law outside the courthouse and into the schools. And I speak to those kids. Maybe you know me because you are the parent or a relative or a friend of a recovering drug addict or alcoholic. Drug addiction is the engine of crime. In my community, drug addiction drives the criminal system. And when you can get a man or a woman into recovery, you're bringing a brother and a sister home. And you're breaking the cycle of crime and addiction that needs to be broken. 10 years ago, I started Medina County's first drug court. Now, I run an early intervention program where people are recovering from heroin addiction daily, and they're living lives that you can't believe. So maybe I've affected you, but you've affected me. You've affected me. I think about you every day before I do my job because, frankly, I work for you. Everybody here who seeks a job at the public service does the public's business, and I work for you. I am blessed to have this job. And every 6 years, this process lets us come to you and say, thank you. I'd like to have your vote again. One more term. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Colleen Swadick for County Recorder.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the library for hosting this event. It's always really, really nice. It usually kicks off the campaign season, and thank you again for having us. My name is Colleen Swedick. My husband Jack and I have lived in Medina County for 27 years. We have one son, Jay, who's 24 years old. As far as my education goes, I have a Bachelor of Finance from Baldwin-Wallace College and a Master's from the University of Akron in Integrated Social Studies and Education. I am here today to tell you that your recorder's office is doing great. I have the most wonderful staff, and I'm so lucky each and every day to work with them. Together, we've accomplished some really wonderful things in the last few years. We have upgraded our software and hardware. We have launched an electronic recording system where the documents can now be electronically recorded instead of having to come to the office. We are also only one of 8 counties that electronically records deeds. We did that project in conjunction with the auditor's office and the county engineer's office. The biggest thing we've done in the last few years is we've put our documents online. They are now available for people to go to their computers. Attorneys, title companies, even private citizens can, in their own home, pull up their mortgages, their deeds online and print them off right from the comfort of their own home or office instead of having to come to the office to get their documents. We've launched a Veterans ID program where we have offered 6,000 IDs to veterans across the county. We've done all this while reducing office expenses. Fiscal responsibility is always in my mind. I understand I'm spending your tax dollars, and I make sure I do it efficiently every single day. In the next 4 years, I'd like to start offering credit card transactions at the office. I'd also like to scan our old documents so we can get some of our earlier years online with online access for all the residents. All this while keeping fiscally responsible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have William Hudson for the County Commissioner.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. My name is Bill Hudson, and I'm the Republican candidate for County Commissioner. By way of introduction, I worked down the street at that little company called Westfield for 31 years, and held a variety of positions at Westfield from in the legal department and the claims department, and was in executive leadership for the last 15 years of my career there. Following Westfield, I set up my own law practice in Medina, and I've been practicing law up there for 3.5 to 4 years. I've also been the law director for the Village of Westfield Center for the past 19 years. And in that role, I have researched and advised the village on all manners of public dealings, everything from open meetings, records, public contracts, public employment, and I've got a lot of experience in researching and examining those issues and advising folks on what their legal rights are in that regard. In addition to that, I've been on the Cloverleaf Board of Education. I served one term and served during a period of time when the district was not in the best financial shape. And that is part of the reason why I ran for the school board. They were on the verge of fiscal emergency, had some very difficult decisions to make in terms of how to cut the budget, what areas to cut, and how to effectively teach kids. In addition to that, I've served on the Medina Port Authority Board and have worked on economic development issues throughout the county. I've also served on numerous nonprofit boards, including one right here in Wadsworth called Northeast Ohio Dance. So my name is Bill Hudson. I ask for your support and your vote come November, and thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. At this point, we're going to take your questions. So I'm going to have a couple staff members who are waiting out in the hall come in. Donald, if you raise your hand in the back there. Donald and Nicole and Dennis, who are coming in right now, are going to have cards and pencils and pens for you to write your question to the office, to the issues, not to the individuals. We're going to take about 5 minutes to do that. If you could please get those to Nicole, Dennis, and Donald as soon as possible. I need to go through those and organize them. We'll get started as soon as those are all in. So thank you. Their questions confined to the issues and the offices. So what we're going to do now is proceed with the questions. And the way that will work is that the questions addressed to the offices will be asked, And then in the same order that was established through our random draw for each of the offices, the candidates will have an opportunity to address the question. They will have 2 minutes. Again, Donald Harmon will be in the back there with the signs. He'll give you the 1-minute warning and the 30-second warning. Okay, so we're going to start. This is very difficult. We're going to start here with the 2 candidates for the Ohio 69th District State House. What steps will you take to make public education a world-class option for our children instead of charter schools was the phrasing of the question. And we will begin with the first of 2 candidates, and Steve Hambley did draw first. So, Steve.
Actually, I have a long history of supporting public education. As county commissioner, we helped put on the ballot in 2007 a sales tax for schools, and I've continued to be a proponent of public schools. And I think one of the best ways to do that is we have a problem with the overregulation of public schools. We've taken away the power from the teachers and the administrators and from the parents, most of all. We overtest, we overregulate, and it just drives up the cost. We've decreased the quality, and we basically have increased the cost of education. One of the ways to do that, well, I have House Bill 212, which I was a co-sponsor of, that returns that local control back to curriculum and personnel and testing, as well as other aspects of running public education back to the local school districts. Returning power to the local school districts is a way to bring back the classroom quality and education we had that when I was going through it and when many of you were going through it. We had good quality schools, good quality teachers. We had excellent schools, and unfortunately, we have an I'll just say an over rigorous approach at the top. When it comes to charter schools, I believe that people ought to have options. I think that when it comes down to it, the parents. I lived where I lived about 30-some years. I've put about $70,000 of taxes. If I had children, I would have liked to have a choice as to where those children go and to be able to utilize some of that money. The question is what is a fair amount? Unfortunately, we do need to reform how we fund charter schools and community schools. We need to change that pass-through system. That's one of the reasons why the Ohio Education Association endorsed me and not my opponent. Thank you.
So I appreciate the question because I am a graduate of Highland High School, which is a public school. I agree, need to have innovation in our schools. And I talk to teachers all the time, both in higher education and our public schools. Some of them are in this room. I have the endorsement of the Ohio Federation of Teachers. The reason is because they know that there is always more we can do to innovate, to integrate the latest strategies, and I absolutely believe in that 100%. The problem is that the charter schools system, the way it functions, is taking away from the public school experience. And that is because in Highland, $250,000 were sent to charter schools, $768,000 from Cloverleaf to charter schools, $1 million from Brunswick and Medina schools sent to charter schools. And right here in Wadsworth, $438,000 last year sent from our public schools to charter schools. These charter schools are trying to reinvent the wheel. If you want to go to a private school, if you want to be homeschooled, you can do that. And there are existing voucher programs that are excellent. But right now, as it stands, money is being taken both from the state budget as well directly from our schools. And as I said earlier, that's at the cost of $7,000 a student to these charter schools. It costs us $4,000 to educate our kids here at home. There is nothing that those charter schools can do that we can't do here in our local schools, and that's a testament to our teachers, and I'm proud of that, and that's true in our community too. And so I believe that we need to make sure we're supporting our public schools. If we do so, we absolutely can have quality education at the public school level. And anybody in here, if you doubt it, take a look at Highland, because it was just rated as one of the best schools in the country, and I'm very proud of that, and that's a testament to Highland schools as well. So when it comes to making public schools great, I think that they are great. I think that we can innovate, but we're not going to do that by sucking money out of their resources that they desperately need. So let's make sure we support our public schools, and we don't try to reinvent the wheel on school choice. So thank you all so much.
The next question is addressed to the Medina County Commissioners. How do you feel about the pipeline? What will you do to protect the environment? And we are going to begin with the commissioner who drew the highest or lowest number, which would be Patricia Geisman.
We have had at our meetings over the last 2 years quite a few representatives from the Nexus pipeline. And we do feel very badly about eminent domain. As a former realtor, I believe in personal property rights, but the feds are involved in this. We have no authority to override anything the federal government is doing. We have listened to both sides of this issue, and we have had quite a few people from both sides come to us and talk to us. I think what we have done for those that come in and would like to see the rerouting of the Nexus pipeline, that we did write and support a rerouting area, and of course that has been sent in. We have done what we feel we can. We certainly have listened to the problems that they are having. I feel very badly for some of these people that have had the expense of attorneys and feeling very, very much overwhelmed with this issue. But the commissioners really have no authority to do anything. We can express ourselves. I believe we have done that. And I am sure that the Nexus pipeline will be built. I wish it could be rerouted because it is going through an area that's very dense, very populated, and should be in areas that are not quite so populated. But we have been listening for 2 years now.
Thank you. We'll hear from our next two candidates in the following order, Mark Colasar and Bill Hudson.
Thank you, and it's a very good question, a hot topic for our county. I myself, I'm not real excited about the pipeline. I understand the limitations on what our local government can do. Our hands are tied at the state and federal level, but I'm always about being a squeaky wheel. To get out there if I was commissioner, I would be out there making sure that if this pipeline goes in, we're doing everything we can to protect the property owner and protect the environment. I think the way that I've never been a fan of eminent domain. I never will be. The way they track this line, they put it near property structures. They've gone out and bullied property owners, and that really gets to under my skin. You know, I've always thought that why didn't they follow the Rover track and try to have these two large pipelines together that are going from Carrollton County all the way up to Canada? And who's benefiting? I don't see any junctions here in Ohio that we can benefit from it. So if it is going to go in, and I've seen the stacks of pipe that's down in Massillon, I will be on the ball to make sure that what goes in is going to have higher standards, if possible, to protect the environment. I'm one for trying to save our environment, and seeing how they rerouted to go, or they wanted to go through Chippewa Lake, the north side of our largest kettle lake in Ohio, natural glacier made, just showed me where the industry is. They're not looking out for our own benefits or the environment. So I will be there watching closely on this pipeline, and hopefully that they follow the corn and follow the reroute to the south part of our southwest section of Medina County if they have to come through our county. So I will be there to make sure that the property owners are heard and make sure that they are protecting our environment if they end up choosing to go through this county. Thank you.
For the last 2.5 years, I've been to nearly every one of the county commissioner meetings and have heard both sides of the Nexus pipeline story. I agree with Commissioner Geisman that the state and federal laws control the matter, and it is not up to the local jurisdiction to regulate it in any way. Really, what you have to have is balance, and you have to balance private property rights against the policy and the decisions and the needs of our country and of our state. And fortunately or unfortunately, those decisions are made at the state and the federal level, and they don't enable the local governmental entities to get involved in it. And it's much like zoning. You have rights that the community takes from you when they zone, and if you all live in the city of Wadsworth, you have zoning in effect, and you can't do things with your property that you may want to do. It is regulated, and this is the same sort of concept. It's just at a much different level and for a much different purpose. I actually represent many clients that are affected by the Nexus pipeline, and what I'm trying to do is to protect their interests and to make sure that the agreements that are in place are fair to them, that the compensation that they receive is fair to them, and that their rights are protected and that they get the due process rights that they should have. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to combine a couple of questions that were similar and addressed to the county the county prosecutor candidates, the incumbent and the candidate. And these questions are related to whether or not the candidates are opposed to or supportive of a county charter and why, and also any commentary that you might have on the recent statement by Justice O'Neill that recently, Justice O'Neill said that John Husted did not have the power to veto charter positions on behalf of the oil and gas industry. So I'm going to put that out there for you to comment on, as well as the key question of, are you supportive or opposed to a county charter, and if so, or in either direction, why? 2 minutes, I'm sorry. And the order there is for S. Forrest Thompson to begin. You'll have 2 minutes, followed by Dean Holman. I don't want to get out my candy cane to pull you away.
You're not going to need it. I'll be very frank with you. This is an issue that I have not fully researched, and I haven't fully looked into it. And as I've learned in court and I've learned in trial over the last 22 years, when you don't have an opinion on something, it's best not to try to share. That's the straightest answer I can give you, and I appreciate the fact that the question was asked, and it's certainly an issue that needs to be addressed more fully. But I, unfortunately, am not prepared to answer that question.
My office twice has been involved in the proposed charter, and my opinion is what the law says. The first charter was held invalid by the Ohio Supreme Court last year, and then this year they held it invalid again. Now, a charter passed in Summit County back in the 80s. They changed the form of government to a charter form of government, and it passed in Cuyahoga County. I think the Ohio Supreme Court has put an onerous burden on people who want to form a charter form of government. They say the alternate form of government has to be fully stated in the petition. That's a pretty burdensome thing to do. I mean, it would require the people circulating the petitions to carry around like almost a set of encyclopedias. And I don't know how citizens could possibly do that. My opinions are based on the law. So if the charter form of government is properly put in front of us to review and to issue an opinion, we merely give the Board of Elections our opinions. If the charter is drawn in such a way that it satisfies the law, we'll inform the Board of Elections, and the Board of Elections will vote accordingly, as they did the last time they exercised their discretion. I think the second question was Justice O'Neill's comment that Secretary of State Husted did not have the power, or apparently the majority of the Supreme Court says he did. So when a majority of the court says a person has the power to do something, the majority of the court rules. That's our form of government. So Justice O'Neill, although I respect him, he's a justice of the Supreme Court, the majority of the court disagrees with him. They held Secretary of State Houston, did have the power. So, thank you.
Thank you. This next question is addressed again to candidates for the 69th District State Representative seat. And we are going to begin in the order of Steve Hambley and then Frank Zona. And this question is for each candidate. Please tell us what your greatest professional achievement was and how does it relate to the office you're seeking and what you're trying to accomplish.
Thank you for that question. I think I almost, in my prior question, I kind of mentioned one of the things that we did as in the Board of Commissioners was we gave to the people the ability to take a look at how to fund our public schools and to take a look and for capital improvements. That was a 0.5% sales tax for 30 years I think that has benefited the schools immensely. I know when I went to the schools before and afterwards and as state representative, likewise been involved in meeting monthly with the superintendents. Time and time again, they would tell how beneficial that funding source has been. Then when we had the recession, and then when the budgets had to be cut by the state government, by the General Assembly, everybody had to feel the pain. And that helped save our schools because they were able to make the capital investments they needed in terms of technology and long-term equipment. We're talking about busings and as well as school books and buildings and so forth that they didn't have before. And they're able to maintain that. And we, in many ways, I understand school boards, they have this balance. They have to balance their operating budget with their capital budget. But time and time again, they would sacrifice what they had to do for the capital in order to meet the operating expenses, the teacher salaries, and all the other operating costs. But here they had a source of money that they could be guaranteed they could bond against. And then you see the wonderful resources that you have here in Wadsworth, the high school, the recreation center. You have everything else that's tied to that, Summa Health and so on. Their ability to put that money and leverage it, and as a state representative, as I said, I meet with them monthly, and I'm always looking at the opportunities to assist them to help do even a better job and utilize the money that they get from the taxpayers, but make sure that it's just not all one resource and that there is flexibility in terms of funding. So as a state legislature, one thing I learned as a county commissioner is listen to the superintendents, listen to the school board, listen to the parents, and listen to the teachers about what's needed, and try to implement that either in law or in practice. Thank you.
I'm a scientist. I studied neuroscience and psychology, and I'm very proud of what I've been able to do at Baldwin-Wallace University as a part of that, as part of their programs. I'm most proud of the research that I've done there because it impacts so many different fields. I did original research similar to work done at the University of Chicago relating to anxiety, student anxiety, and math performance in the classroom. We're working on publishing that research, and it could have profound impacts on the way students perform in the classroom and real-life implications for it. I'm also very proud of the work that I've done in neurobiology and the topic of neurodegeneration, making small contributions to the discoveries we will need to cure Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, cancer, serious diseases that we are able to cure. I presented this research at international conferences with the people, the big-name people who are making those advances that we see in the news. I'm very, very proud to have been able to represent our state, our community, and my university in doing so. I've been a teaching assistant at Baldwin-Wallace, and I've had opportunities through the National Eagle Scout Association to participate in global research. This past summer, I had the opportunity, we were just discussing it, to study with Dr. Lee Berger in South Africa on work that he's doing on the discoveries, redefining our understanding of our history as human beings. I've been especially proud of the community involvement I've had opportunities for speaking with students here about their hopes to get involved in research and their hopes to make contributions to the research that so many people have gotten me in the position to try to contribute to. I want to know that there are plenty of past contributions in this district to education, but the focus that I have right now is what superintendents and teachers are asking for right now, today, for their students. My professional achievements in research have had and will have direct impacts on the way students learn, on the way that they perform. I hope that we can accomplish much in the future through my professional work, but it has best enabled me to hear from educators, people who have been in the classroom, similar to people that I've worked with, on what we need to do right now in our public schools, and I'm very, very proud of that.
Thank you. The next question is addressed to the Office of County Coroner. The coroner has been a one-person operation. Our county has grown greatly. Is there any way to increase coverage, communication, and investigation, serving families and to better serve the families of the deceased? You'll have 2 minutes to answer.
Medina County has grown a lot. We're close to 175,000 people, and we are going to need a coroner who is there for the county, but I think I'm going to need some help. And what I would like to do is hire a crime scene investigator who will also work with me very closely to go to the scenes that I will have to also go to. We will work as a team. Being a doctor, I have to maintain my board certification, and that requires me to continuously do my job as an ER physician. So when I have to do shifts, I will have my crime scene investigator help me, and I will also try to have some deputy coroners that are well-renowned doctors in the area who want to work with me and have a team approach so that we can better serve the citizens of Medina County.
Thank you. This next question is directed to the state senator. Apologies. 22nd District State Senator Larry Aboff. What has been done specifically to improve the state of our economy? Can you explain to us the surplus rainy day fund?
Sure, and first of all, I want to thank whoever asked that question for not letting me sit here all night without answering any questions, just because I guess I'm flying solo tonight. We've done quite a bit, actually, to improve Ohio's economy. We've cut taxes by more than any other state in the country over the last 5 years. We got rid of the death tax, something we were already an outlier on just by virtue of having. We've cut income taxes for small businesses specifically to help spur economic growth. We've cut taxes across the board and actually helped people at the lower end of the income spectrum by doing an earned income tax credit, which is something that I think Republicans and Democrats agreed was a good idea. We changed the way we do regulations in the state, so we've seen a 46% decrease in new regulatory filings. We've amended or repealed several thousand different regulations that were already in place. We changed the way we do economic development and took it out of the hands of government bureaucracies and put it in the hands of people who understand how job creation really works, people who've been successful in the private sector through a program called Jobs Ohio. And if people want to stick around later, I can tell you specific examples where Jobs Ohio has been helpful here in Medina County. The combination of these things, improving the overall marketplace, has really changed the way employers, both inside and outside the state, view the state of Ohio. So we're one of the states, I think, that's been growing pretty consistently over the last few years. We've added 438,000 net new private sector jobs. Our unemployment rate when I joined the Senate was above the national average. It had been for a very long time. Now it's below the national average. Here in Medina County, it's 4.3%. And we've been building on that progress in this General Assembly. As I mentioned before, I co-sponsored a bill during this cycle to lower the filing fees for starting a new business by 21%. We've along with that, seen an increase in new business filings here in the state of Ohio, and we're on pace to break our all-time record for that. So I think we're moving in the right direction. The rainy day fund was 89 cents when I joined the legislature. Because we've been fiscally responsible, we've been able to push that to about $2 billion. So the state does have a savings account again, and we went from 48th or 47th overall in the country in long-term fiscal outlook to being around the top 10. So I'm proud of the progress we've made. I look forward to building on that over the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is addressed to the 16th Congressional Representative, and that question is, the Pentagon is developing a new nuclear cruise missile that former Secretary of Defense William Perry has called a grave mistake. This weapon could lead to a new arms race. Would you support canceling plans to build a new nuclear cruise missile? And you will have 2 minutes.
Well, this one's going to be easy for me to answer. I know nothing about this. Nothing at all. Like I said, I started this 9 months ago. I haven't really, I've been reading a lot of the white papers. Tim Ryan's been good enough to send some stuff to me, but that is one that I haven't read yet, so I can't answer it. We do have a problem with an awful lot of military hardware that we build. A lot of it doesn't work. The F-35 has a lot of problems. It's cost us trillions of dollars. We waste a lot of money with a lot of these things that we build for the military. I believe in a strong military. I believe that we have to have security for this country. But at the same time, we do have to look at what we're building, take a close look at it, see whether or not it's just for large corporations to continue to make big money. They should deliver whatever it is they're building. Again, I don't know anything about this cruise missile, but it's one thing that I am going to study when I get home. And whoever asked that question, thank you very much.
Okay, this is going to be our final question of the night, and then I'll provide some concluding remarks here. This question is addressed to the State House of Representative candidates. What is your stance on restoring power to the Humane Society to appoint special prosecutors to animal and child abuse cases? And we are going to begin here with, let's see, we'll begin with, again, with Steve Hambley and followed by Frank Zona, 2 minutes each, please.
At this point in time, under House Bill 60, which was Goddard's bill, actually it eliminated the ability for the Humane Society, which is a nonprofit organization, to appoint a prosecutor prosecuting laws that involve felony. This sounds like maybe a question for the county prosecutor to answer as well. But in that particular case, it involves any kind of a felony in terms of a companion animal, a domestic animal, that it would have to be a public prosecutor. I'm a strong believer. The County Commissioners Association of Ohio, the Ohio Public Defenders Organization, you've got the public prosecutors, you've got the number of agencies and organizations have had some concerns with private entities having the ability to hire an attorney and be able to have that attorney work solely for that nonprofit organization. Its laws have been in place since 1952, actually in the mid-1950s. I do have a bill that's going through the House where we've reached some compromises, and we've eliminated any reference to the prosecution of that, because House Bill 60 has addressed many of the issues that were involved when it came to humane societies. The bill that I'm speaking of that's on its way in the committee deals with a number of issues, accountability. Do you know it is legal to bribe a humane officer? There's nothing there, and not subject to bribery laws. As well as there's no accountability in terms of when we talk about who they answer to. So the bill we're talking about in terms of humane societies is making sure that the money they get from that county commissioner is accounted for, is told how they use it, that their enforcement activity, that the humane officer is doing a good job, the reports on an annual basis to the sheriff, so that the law enforcement likewise knows what's going on. Both bills that are involving humane society, involving the prosecution, excuse me, were endorsed by some people such as Dennis Hanwell, also Greg Huber, who's the law director for the city of Medina, as well as a city manager. We had a number of associations likewise weigh in on this. So this is an area that's very complicated in the 1950s, but we now have a bill that the humane societies are now endorsing. We're going to be having hearings on it, hopefully during lame duck, and be able to get it on the House floor sometime in November or December. Thank you.
Regarding special prosecutors and addressing animal abuse generally, I want to speak to the quality of our peace officers, our SPCA representatives, the people who work for the Humane Societies. You do not go in to a career to try to stop the abuse of animals unless you genuinely care about preventing it. And I think that drawing allusions to bribery or anything like that is totally inappropriate. I've spoken to the people who work at the Humane Societies and the SPCA in this county and in other counties. They are very proud of the work that they've done. There are bills on the floor, one of which was mentioned, to eliminate special prosecutors, as well as to remove the enforcement abilities for those humane societies. I can tell you this is going to have one effect, and that is more animal abuse in our county and other counties. That's the reality. Our prosecutors have serious work to do. We need to be able to allow our prosecutors outside expertise. The special prosecutor who is responsible for this region, who's tried cases in this region, has tried in a third of the counties in the state of Ohio. That's an expert. And if you have a case in front of a court to address animal abuse, we owe it to the dignity of ourselves and to the animals and the pet owners of the county and human dignity at large to make sure that we are investigating that case fully and to make sure that if there's a serious case of animal abuse, it gets prosecuted. Taking away those abilities for whatever reason is not appropriate. I would be hard-pressed to find any reason that should be removed completely. If there could be more review about how exactly these agency works, that's one thing, but I've spoken to them, and the bottom line is any single case of alleged mismanagement, I've spoken to the people who brought those cases and are working with my opponent on the bills. They have had adequate notification. I investigated this matter. I spoke to the Humane Societies. I'm aware of what the procedures are in place. Eliminating those is not going to make us any better. How we treat animal abuse, the seriousness with which we take animal abuse, says something about us, and I'm going to stand for that in the State House. Thank you.
I want to thank you on behalf of the library for coming out tonight to listen to the candidates firsthand, which is really the only way in this era of oversaturation with media messages, and it's a difficult thing for them to step up to the plate here and put their neck on the line and to serve for us, and so I appreciate you being engaged in that process. The library appreciates that, and thank you for joining us for our 24th year. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the Wadsworth Public Library is on the ballot for November 8th. And that is a renewal of an existing levy that accounts for 24% of the library's annual operating revenue. It is not a new tax. It is not a tax increase. And if it doesn't pass, we are not going to close, despite what you may have read, but we would have to look at reductions beyond 2017. With that, I want to say again, thank you very much, and have a nice night and a safe ride home. Thank you for coming.